Hello, this is Yehna.
And this is Jessie.
We are back with another episode. We wrestled through many different questions, and we wanted to invite you and elaborate more on the concept of passing down our TCK legacy. So, welcome and join us at
At
the
the table.
table.
I don't know why we always take a deep breath and we're trying to time it. I love
It's okay.
it.
The beauties of Zoom, long distance relationship really do be like
Exactly.
this.
We just gotta do what we gotta do.
Roll with the punches.
Yes, but welcome to our episode. Let's get started. We're touching on, would you have your child go through a TCK experience? And we just said A because we understand that within the TCK experience, it's just an umbrella of so many different types of TCKs, like MKs, PKs, military kids, expats. So we just said A because ours is very specific
Specific.
and full of trauma and burdens. JK.
JK. Anyway.
But let's get started. Yenna, why are we even asking this question?
With the previous episode, we were wrestling with just the idea of a future family. That's just kind of the idea. And then with that in mind, because as TCKs, third culture kids, I mean, yes, we're adults now, but having grown up with that background, we've had just a lot of fears that developed having been in that kind of lifestyle. A lot of times we've just been experiencing a lot of ins and outs of people, and we just through that we've experienced a lot of pain and hurt. Yes, I'm rumbling and struggling through this because I'm trying to word it without exuding too much emotion. The fact is, we do carry a lot of hurt from this experience. And through that, it
And
makes us question. Sorry, did you want to add anything?
well, I was going to say that's very specific to Yenna and my experience.
Right,
We understand that
exactly.
other people might have not experienced that as TCKs.
At
Mhm.
all. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm very careful with it, because I don't want to be like, this is every TTK's experience. Because even within just me and Jessie, we have such different aspects of having grown up in our respective places as well. So we want to
Mhm.
acknowledge that. But with that said, it also, because of our own personal experience, it makes us question whether or not we want to pass this experience down, because we do, as we wrestle with the question of occupation and vocation, we can't help but think, okay, but how much will this impact our future family? Because if we decide to run with this, yes, God will change our path throughout our life and our seasons will be different, but overall, our vision will impact the way we live. And so,
Mm,
how
so
much
true.
of this do we want to impact our future family?
Mm.
So, big question mark.
Big question mark. And we also want to acknowledge that there is so much beauty in being
Mm,
multicultural. And there's so many positive aspects of knowing and wrestling with identity at such an early age. We don't want to ever we don't want to ever dismiss that part.
mhm,
And Yana and I, we've been very blessed to have that lens at which we're
mhm.
seeing the world.
Right.
With that being said, knowing that our children or future children could potentially have that same experience, we're also understanding that they would have TCK parents. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that would have a different experience in itself. So we're not like, oh my gosh, they're going to get a carbon copy of who we are and
No.
the
Yeah.
trauma and the burdens that they've experienced. Like, no, what have been other experiences,
Mm-hmm.
TCK experiences that you have heard of, Yana, just so that we give people a clear picture of different
Right.
experiences.
Exactly. So this umbrella of TCK just covers so many different people. And if you see people who've even brought up this concept of TCK, they continue to do research on what this means to be a TCK and all the experiences that come with it, the similarities and the differences. And some of the differences that I've heard just amongst friends or just other people that share their life story is some kids maybe have gone abroad without their parents, but they adopt that culture because they are within an environment that is not originally their parents. And therefore, they grow up with a whole different worldview. There's that experience. And just the pros and cons of living apart from parent at such a young age. And there's also experience of being an expat student where expat student, I meant child, where they travel and go back and forth from different countries. And so it's similar to certain MK experiences, but there's just a difference where it is out of parents' choice, not so much a sending church or an organization that kind of not dictates, but oversees what they do. It's family choice and they have their own lifestyle within the country. But in the same way, they are adopting a whole different culture and experience being in those respective places. And then there's the military kids. That is just a whole different world where they are going in and out of different countries. And then it depends on just the length of which they are staying at a certain military camp and all that that entails. And then there's PK-MK mixture and all of that. I am not one, so I cannot speak for them either. But it's just like, there's just been a myriad of experience within even these categories. Like I said before, and like Jessie was saying before, we want to fully acknowledge that we're coming from a very specific point of view of being TCK. And so we don't want to ever dismiss or overgeneralize what a TCK experience is. We just wanted to acknowledge that there are other stories that are out there. We just are a snippet of the TCK narrative. There's so much beauty in passing down our TCK legacy. I don't want to bring up this reflection as an, oh my gosh, we have so much trauma and so much hurt and only bad things are going to be passed down. We really want to focus in on the fact that there's so much beauty in being TCK and possibly continuing that in our family lifestyle. So that was kind of long, but that's kind of the gist of what I want to say.
I love that. Thanks for really giving us an umbrella picture of all the TCKs out there. With that being said, though, Yehna, what's your answer to this question? Our first question of would you have your child go through a TCK experience?
I still am wrestling with this. It's a little far in our future, so maybe this is like a dramatized over reflection. But anyway, I would love to continue living this TCK lifestyle and dare I say, even become a missionary, whatever that may look like. And that's kind of scary to say because I don't even know what that means. And then as mentioned before, I know there's just so many blessings that came from growing up as a TCK, whether that be having a worldview perspective and also being able to have met so many people and just hearing their story, whether that was directly or indirectly, just gaining wisdom from so many different people. That's just not an experience that you just come by on a day-to-day basis. And that's what I'm realizing now that I live in one place. Also, having lived in NK in itself was such a huge blessing. I was able to live in a country that is so misunderstood. And now growing up, I'm able to represent them and love on that country from a whole different perspective. And I don't ever want to underestimate and take that for granted because I've done that already for too long. With that said, I know there's so much joy and blessing in having grown up this way. But within that experience, there were some deep pains that I needed to work through and continue to work through. Sometimes when I'm just not in a state of health, that mindset of pain and a lot of struggles tends to be on the forefront of my mind. And thinking about translating that down or passing that down to my future family is definitely scary. So yes, I did not really give a straight answer. It's because I'm having a hard time letting go of that fear. And I think that's a whole different struggle and a different challenge that God is going to make me learn and continue to learn and forever is just letting go of control because it's just about full surrender. As much as I reflect on this 100 million times on the podcast or with Jessie alone, I will never know. It's really up to God. But I will say these are the pros and cons list that I have developed over the past year or two and more. And just thinking, wow, more than anything, I need to really think about the gravity, the weight of being a TCK parent.
Wow. Oh, that I was literally tearing up there because it reminds me of our TCK relevancy episode of like how much do we let go, how much do we carry on? And that's
Yeah.
exactly, I think, that this season of being in our 20s and figuring out our life, like it's definitely aligning with that. So thanks for sharing that. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Uh,
How about you, Jessie?
for me, growing up, I didn't really second guess whether or not I would have a TCK life. I always thought that I would return to Japan and live there. For some
Mm,
reason, I never saw anything else. And then here I am, not returning to Japan and being in the States for like 7 years now.
that's
But it's
crazy.
also this feeling, I know, I can't believe it's been that long. It's also this feeling of feeling wasteful of my experience if I like just
Hmm.
stayed in one space, that I
Yes.
need to continue to be a TCK, because if I just settle in one place, what was all of my experiences for? Is what I think to
Hmm.
myself. But now I'm realizing that there are other ways that I can continue to stay in tune with my TCK identity, whether that's through this podcast or connecting with other TCKs or into what God has for me in the future, and whether that's a place or a people group that He puts on my heart. I think I'm wanting to be obedient to that. But I think the hurt, the deep rooted struggle that I've been wrestling with my whole life is just the fact that I am a Japanese American that grew up in Japan. That's what really
Hmm.
just been tripping me up my whole life, especially when it comes to my family. None of my mom's siblings speak Japanese, none of their kids speak Japanese. And that Japan is less in their life. Whereas I've
Hmm.
gotten the opportunity to learn the language, learn the culture. And I'm like, what does that all mean? Like, we are the only family that has
Right.
experienced the culture firsthand. So what? I'm just going to go back to the States and forget, like, I, I couldn't even speak Japanese like without mixing English for so long. I still can't really speak full Japanese. And I'm like, dang, Jess, like that's well, that is such a waste. Like, what's happening
Yeah.
here? So I think that's what I'm really struggling with when it comes to having a
Hmm.
future as a TCK, having that for my kids as well, because I
Right.
know how valuable it has been in my life. So
It's kind of the question
that's
of
what I'm
like, what
wrestling
was,
with.
why did I go through all that? Really
Yeah.
kind of like waving your hand at Jesus, like, you made me go through this for a reason, and I kind of need to know why. But again, that is all up to God's timing. And we may never know on this side of heaven. That's really scary. I'm not
And the
gonna lie.
thing, yeah. And the thing is, you may be a TCK that doesn't live a TCK lifestyle anymore.
Right.
But I also want to acknowledge that God uses everything and nothing goes to waste.
Right.
Even though I am saying, like, oh, it's going to go to waste, like, I know deep down it's not. Like, He
Mm-hmm.
uses every situation, every trial, and whatever in our lives for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. And I truly trust in that. It's more of just, yeah, like, okay, but what we want to know what the next steps are. But it's a balance
Yes.
of trusting in Him. Yeah.
Truly a balance. Anyway.
The end.
Honestly, just to be continued, because again, this is just kind of within the category of reflection. We're just thinking through and navigating, what does this all mean? I mean, that's kind of the 20s, but the 20s are there for just exploring and experiencing new things and unpacking old things and relearning and unlearning. So with that said, thank you for listening to our brains and just all the things that we continue to question and work through and think about. We are on Spotify and YouTube if you want to listen to more. And you can follow us on Instagram to just continue with all the updates. Thank you, as always, for listening to us. And we are excited to continue to share with you all. Until next time, bye.
Bye.